What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to ForTheFans with me and my co-host Ben. And to give you a little bit of entertainment on this day of rest, the first of the World Cup, me and Ben are going to be giving you guys a rundown of the group stages, letting you know what we made of the teams, kind of looking back on our predictions, what did we get right, what did we get wrong. Hopefully you guys are going to enjoy, so let's get straight into this. I should just record drunk more often, it works.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning. It is ForTheFans show day 16, 17. We're
16.
halfway through. Thank you, Jack. I've got Jack with me. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm decent, thank you, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm doing terrifically. I'm going to level with the people here, Jack.
Yeah.
Jack's slightly intoxicated before 12 p.m. And I'm concerned.
I've just got the blues. It's dawned on me finally that both Japan and England finished bottom of their group. As we were preparing the notes, I kind of realised, oh gosh, they both finished bottom. So I cracked open the Bulmers.
How many?
I'm drinking my three.
Not even, just gone 12.
It's fine.
Right then. So what we're going to do, folks, is we're going to run down all the groups, A to G, A to H, whoops, A to H, and then we'll give our little rundown. We'll see if it went as we thought. We'll look at the top performers of the tournament so far. We'll look at who you thought, well, what's your favourite moment so far, etc. with the Twitter question. So let's get into it, Jack. Group A consisted of Brazil, Mexico, Croatia, and Cameroon. It's not gone how I thought it would.
It's gone how I thought it would. I just want to... But
okay.
No, I know you backed Cameroon slightly. And
yeah,
they've been a little... They did worse than England, which says a lot, really.
I thought Cameroon would upset the apple cart. Mexico really surprised us, I think, in this group. Neymar's had a good tournament for Brazil. And Croatia have disappointed us, I think. I expected more from Croatia. Mandzukic, you've got Rakitic, who's had a brilliant season. Modric, who's had a good season. I expected a little bit more out of them, so I'm disappointed. What did you make of Brazil, though? Brazil were the big dogs of this tournament.
We talked about this before, didn't we? About you kind of backed Brazil just to go out there and stomp this league, and I was kind of I felt like they might have a few stumbling blocks, and that stumbling block came in the form of the Mexican keeper, Ochoa. He was just a monster. But besides that, I think Brazil, when they were on song, they played very, very well. I think Neymar's got the kind of group stage you need him to get going into the kind of knockout stage. You know, he's the kind of player who you need to perform in the knockout stage, and given how he's kind of hit the ground running this World Cup, I think he's going to be very, very beneficial. But overall, Brazil did what was needed of them, and I'm not too surprised to see them head in the group.
But you mentioned the Mexicans, you mentioned Ochoa. He has been, aside from Neymar, he's been the star of this group, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
He's been the main man. Cameroon, really disappointing. One of the better African teams, I thought, coming in. Didn't even get a single point and got themselves a -8 goal difference, which is quite disappointing. Brazil started really well. Well, actually, no, they didn't start really well, did they? It started with a Marcelo own goal.
It did.
But they came through and beat Croatia, and that was the first game over and done with. That was the bit that they were probably most worried about, the beginning. They thought, if we get through this, we're going to be fine. And Croatia, at that point, you fancy to go on and still qualify, because they gave Brazil quite a torrid time. But it just didn't turn out like that.
No.
Right.
I agree with that.
Good. But the Mexicans have gone through with Brazil. They've set up some plum ties in the next round. And who will they be facing, Jack? They'll be facing Group B. Who was in Group B?
Spain were in Group B. Well, they still are. They are. I guess they still are, technically. It's not like you get relegated in the World Cup.
No.
But no, obviously this group consisted of Netherlands, Chile, Spain, Australia. I think the only thing we got right about this group was the Netherlands finishing top and Australia finishing last.
I don't know. I thought Spain would top the group.
I'm pretty sure I said Netherlands were going to top the group.
Well, go back and listen, folks. Go to the group.
Go listen to our reviews. Let us know what you made of it. If you were surprised by any of these, I think if you weren't surprised by Spain crashing out, then you might need to reevaluate yourself.
I don't think we were surprised at Chile, though.
No, we talked about Chile. We kind of thought that in this group, Chile and Netherlands would really be fighting out for that second spot.
You've just said you thought Holland were winning the group.
Well, no, but we discussed like those two would be like, we felt like that would be the key game.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right.
We felt like that would be the one that decided it, which it was ultimately the decider, kind of on the last games.
Yeah,
is what I meant to say.
Topped the group, but it wasn't actually. It wasn't in reality. It wasn't an important game really, because the group was decided at that point.
Yeah,
it was kind of a bonus game for the pair of them. But let's talk about Spain then. It's all gone horribly wrong. Is the golden era of tiki-taka over, Jack?
That's a bloody good question.
Do they need to regroup? What needs to change? Asking questions.
They've got to adapt. They've got to progress. I think Spain are now in a state of transition. They've tried to force a striker into their system in Diego Costa, and it hasn't worked for them. And I think, whilst it's not kind of the death of tiki-taka football, it's going to be kind of a stage now where it needs to be rethought. You look at how the Spanish teams have done against, say, Bayern Munich, not so much this year in the Champions League, but certainly the years before that. You've seen a kind of a clinical edge come from teams against tiki-taka teams, and I think that kind of, I don't want to say it's been figured out, but I feel like Spain, this tournament, like, it was a combination of teams knowing what to expect, but also just the simple fact that they just weren't up to par.
Yeah, it's interesting that people are saying now, oh, it's over. It's not over. Spain have still got an absolutely phenomenal group of players coming through their youth system. It is by no means over. And to me, it feels like they just need to start again. Not in a way which has to revamp everything, as I mentioned. They've got a very exciting group of young players. They've got people like Koke coming through. They've got De Gea, who could be their keeper for the next 15 years if Casillas carries on the way he is. I think, like, people are going to write them off for the Euros now, and they're going to talk up Germany and Belgium and France and whatnot. But to me, even going into the next tournament, Spain are up there in terms of favourites for that competition, and that will be forgotten, I think.
We did discuss kind of going into this group as well, the fact that we kind of felt like Spain were a team in transition and that this tournament was like a transitional tournament, and I think we expected them to do better than they did, but we did touch upon the fact they've kind of got this young new rank of exciting players coming through who were here at this World Cup, you know.
Yeah.
And it was kind of unlike, say, England, where we kind of stuck with a golden generation until the last World Cup. It kind of feels like, to me, like Spain were prepared and that maybe they knew they were going to take a slight hit. And I don't think anyone expected them to go out in the group stage. But to me, they were a team with some young players who could perform on their day, and they just haven't. And I think whether or not that's the case, the players not performing or the system that they ended up kind of resorting to just not working is kind of up for debate.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Euro 2000. I don't know if you remember this, Jack, because you'd have been quite young at the time.
I've been 7.
But in Euro 2000, Germany flopped in their group. I think their group was England, Portugal and Romania, it was. And England and Germany didn't go through, and Germany didn't win a game. I think they drew one and lost the others. And then at that point, Germany went through a moment of, okay, we need to change everything now, and things have got to go for the better. And what happened? Runners-up in 2002's World Cup. So that's what I'm saying. Despite them having an awful moment, it meant they had to bring through a lot of young players. I think people like Podolski may have been in the squad at that point, and they kind of brung those through. And Klose was another one that came through and scored and was a success, and that's what Spain need to do now.
Yeah.
So it's not over by any means. But obviously we should talk about Chile, who have been excellent.
They have been. They've really impressed me. I think Medella's been a standout player for them at the back. I personally raised a few questions about his ability to play centre-half. But he's shown the entire Chile defence, to be honest, to keep a clean sheet against Spain is impressive. Only team in the group to do so. But I think they've surprised a lot of people, as have a lot of the kind of South America and Latin America teams, kind of trying to include Costa Rica and Mexico in that. But no, Chile in this group, we kind of felt like they might have a chance. But I don't think anyone would have put money on them to kind of, with one game left, be already through.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And the Dutch as well. Van Gaal's not got... We talked about it pre-tournament. We looked at that Dutch squad and we didn't fancy it. And what's happened? They didn't lose a game. Yeah. They won every game, in fact. They didn't even drop a point. And they've performed phenomenally well. You look at Daley Blind on the left, who's been a revelation. Robin is having the tournament of his life.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's been one of the best players. I think you've got to put him alongside kind of Neymar, Müller, and Messi in terms of his performances. I know he hasn't got the same amount of goals as them, but in terms of just his attacking presence, he's right up there this tournament.
Indeed. So that will see Chile play Brazil in the next round, and Mexico will face the Netherlands. Obviously, we'll cover those in tomorrow's show in a bit more depth as they're kicking off tomorrow. Next group is.
Are we not doing Australia?
Why would we bother?
Well, because I know we have a few Australian viewers. I will give you this, Australia. You almost won a game against Holland, but you couldn't get me the point I needed for Ben to do the forfeit, so that's all I've got to say on it.
Aussie!
No.
Exactly.
Group C.
Group C.
I don't know. Can we go over this group?
Can we start with Japan?
No, let's just
The group was Colombia, Greece, Ivory Coast, and Japan. Colombia topped the group. Greece, in a dramatic final day, finished second. Ivory Coast once again miss out on qualification to the last 16. And Japan, the nation's favourites, Jack, have let everybody down.
They've let me down.
Well, they did let you down.
They
let
have.
everybody down.
I had so much faith in them. I mean, we talked about in the pre-show how Japan had this kind of really good attacking kind of spirit, and there was kind of a few question marks maybe over their ability to have a finisher and over their ability to defend. Overall, I didn't feel like defensively they looked that weak until they got hit on the counter. They seemed pretty well regimented when they didn't have the ball and kind of had time.
Defending them. I love it.
You look at Japan. And
1 point.
Colombia have played well. Don't get me wrong, but they've played well on the counter attack. But when Colombia scored with their first shot of the game against Japan in the last game, Japan had already had 7 shots on target. Japan's issue was a lack of cutting edge. You look at the teams in their group. Ivory Coast and Colombia, 2 very fast counter-attacking teams, 2 teams who can absorb pressure, then hit you on the break with pace. You look at Greece. Yeah. Slightly less kind of pacey counter-attack, but the same kind of idea, but with a big man holding up the play. And I feel like Japan, because of the way they had to approach the games, because their strength lied in their midfield, because it lied in their attacking kind of creative players, that's let them... what's the word? It's kind of played against them in the group they were drawn with. But I do think for Japan the big issue was just a lack of cutting edge. You look at... They got 1 draw in the entire tournament, and they scored 2 goals in 3 games. That doesn't get you through, unfortunately.
No. Well, I've been really impressed. We'll talk about Colombia because I've been extremely impressed. I think from this point onwards, people are excited to see how far this Colombian team can go. And it's probably been, oh, blimey, 10 years, at least 10 years since Colombia have had a team to really be excited about. And even when Falcao missed out, there was still this era of positivity, this era of positivity around Colombia. And boy, have they shown it. Jimmy Rod has been a phenomenon. Even Jackson Martinez, who didn't play the first 2 games, came on in the third, started the third, and picks up the man of the match award in that game. Strength in depth is something a lot of teams, especially, like, look at Netherlands and Chile. If their big players go, they're not exactly going to be ready to go again. Whereas Colombia, my word, they're a force to be reckoned with. And also, you've got Greece and Ivory Coast in that group. Greece have gone through, Jack.
I said 2 minutes ago that you don't go through with 2 goals. Greece did. So I have to take back that statement.
Did they really?
They only scored 2 goals. They lost 3-0 in their opening game. They drew 0-0 with Japan, and they won their game against Ivory Coast 2-1. And one of those goals was from a penalty, which was the Samaras one.
Is that impressive, or is it depressing?
As a Japan fan, I find it a little bit saddening.
Okay.
So then we talked about it in the show, didn't we? The fact that Greece are the masters of the 1-0s and 2-1s. Yeah. They don't score a lot of goals. They don't need to.
No, apparently. But they got the all-important win was against the Ivory Coast, who once again have disappointed everyone a little bit. I just think it's a shame. They've got their golden generation. I'm not saying it's over, but by the time the next World Cup comes around, Drogba would be 39 and Yaya Touré would be 35.
Yeah,
and it's just like they are the 2 big names in African football. Never mind the Ivory Coast in African football, and this was their last chance to make a mark on the World Cup, and they've kind of just fizzled out again.
The issue I have, and I know obviously the Touré brothers, their younger brother died unfortunately during this World Cup from cancer. But for me, Yaya Touré just didn't step up to the mark. Even, the first 2 games before the tragic news kind of broke out, he just didn't... You expect Yaya Touré in the centre of midfield to be the powerhouse. He's the kind of player who you think you can plonk in a team. And in many ways, you kind of look at, say, Portugal, where Ronaldo often plays out wide. I feel like Yaya Touré being that main player in the centre, obviously there is quality around him, but you expect him to really contribute and be the focal point of their play.
Yeah, you wonder how much it's affected them. And obviously, here at ForTheFans, our thoughts go out to the Tourés. But by the same token, you're right, they've not stepped up. And it's a shame, and you do wonder, it'll probably come out after the tournament that it's had a major effect on them both. And in reality, you can't blame them.
No.
But it's just a shame. I think we really wanted to see an African team do well, and Ivory Coast were potentially going to be that team. There's others who are doing it, but Ivory Coast were kind of the one. I think you really want to see step up.
I feel like in this group, Greece have done me a favour because you laughed at me suggesting Japan could go through, and you were backing Colombia and Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
So Greece have made me feel slightly less silly.
Yeah.
Because we didn't give them any chance.
No, I did think it would be Colombia and Ivory Coast. Then Greece, with their 2 goals, have ruined everything.
Should we go on to the kind of group which we got completely wrong?
Yeah, sure.
The group D, we were wrong. basically.
Costa Rica, England, Italy, and Uruguay. I think we both thought Italy would top the group, England not far behind.
Suarez would bite someone and Costa Rica would lose every game.
Yeah. And well, we got 1 out of 4.
Yeah. It's close.
Costa Rica, let's start with them. I don't even want to talk about England, Jack. I'll say that now.
No, we've talked loads about England on the show. If you want to hear us talk about England, go back to the England match day review things that we've done. You know, we've talked so much about them. It's like beating a dead horse with a baseball bat.
It is. So Costa Rica have shocked the world, Jack.
They've rocked the world, is what I think they've done.
Unbeaten in the group, which included Uruguay, recent Copa America winners, England, the home of football, and Italy, who came runners-up in the Euros recently. What an achievement.
Yeah.
Like, unbelievable. I'm so pleased for them because I don't think they gave themselves much hope. Maybe they did. But
I don't know about if you're an Italian watching or you're a Uruguayan watching. Please let us know what your media felt of Costa Rica, because I've got to be honest. Like, when you see that group, Costa Rica are just that team that you go, right, they're going to get thrown under the bus in every game. I mean, I think a lot of England fans are like, oh gosh, if we need a win in the last game, that's going to be the easy game that we should win, that we don't win. But Costa Rica, they've played really well. Like, they're playing on the break there to play to their strengths. For me, is it Joel Campbell?
Yep.
It's been absolutely amazing for them. I feel as if you're going to play that counter-attacking football, you may only get 2 or 3 chances a game, and when those chances have come his way, he's banged them in.
Indeed.
You look at kind of the flip side of teams doing that, who don't bury the chances they come their way, like Iran. I don't want to say Costa Rica are like Iran, but you look at the Iran game against, I think it was Argentina, where they did have chances to score, they didn't take them. Like, they've just missed a Joel Campbell, but we'll come on to Iran. So
we will. The other team to go through, the controversial team of this World Cup, it turns out now after what happened, Uruguay. I want to ask you, Jack. I want you to answer as fairly as you like. Are Uruguay a one-man team?
No.
Okay, because why not? Who's there? Because obviously Louis is going to miss the rest of the tournament now.
Yep.
So and they've got a very, very tough game against Colombia in the next round.
Yep.
What was the secret to them getting through this group? Because I'm not sure it was anything other than Louis. But go on.
Well, I think their win against Italy wasn't down to Louis. I think Suarez had he didn't have a quiet game, but he didn't have a big impact on the goal that went their way or any of their real kind of, I want to say their build-up play as such. I feel like you could have stuck anyone in instead of Suarez. The way they played against Italy, they were better than Italy defensively. They pressed higher. I think given how they performed against England, yes, maybe they looked like a one-man team in that game specifically, and maybe you could argue the fact that they lost 3-1 to Costa Rica. I feel as if the Uruguayan defence's mistakes against Costa Rica weren't because Luis Suarez wasn't there. I think that's because they weren't playing particularly well. I think when they played against Italy, they held onto the ball a lot better. They pressed well. They didn't let the Italians have the ball in their own area for I think it ended up being about half an hour at the start of the second half. It was, for me, as much as you can argue Suarez is a one-man team, I feel as if Diego Forlan and Cavani, whilst they're not the same players, I'd see Costa Rica as almost more of a one-man team if you were to argue Uruguay or a one-man team with Joel Campbell. Well,
it'll be interesting to see what they do now, because their team, Uruguay are a team which set up to work around Luis Suarez. Even in the game against Costa Rica they lost, their team was set up around a player that wasn't there, ironically enough. And now they have no choice. They know for the rest of this tournament, if they're to progress past Colombia, they will have to change their system. They'll have to rely on Cavani, the likes of Rodriguez as well, and as you mentioned, Forlan. It's going to be a tough task, but a team who I've really been disappointed by. We've talked about a lot of disappointing teams. You look at the teams that have gone out in third in the first 4 groups: Croatia, Spain, Ivory Coast, and Italy.
Yeah.
In this group, some people aren't shocked. Some people didn't think Italy were very good. I thought they were quite good.
They came into the tournament not in form. No, but by the same token, really. You expect them to do well. I mean, if someone in the chat can tell me that they predicted the 4 teams who would finish third, I will show you a witch. Basically, they can see the future as far as I'm concerned, because I don't think anyone could have predicted all 3 or 4 of these rather in the first 4 groups. But for me, Italy, obviously Prandelli's now stepped down. There was questions over whether or not he should have changed the system. Played a little bit more like how Juve play. I know Pirlo was set to retire. I believe he's now said he's not going to retire. So there is a future there. And kind of Pirlo said, if you need me, I'm here to call up. But I kind of do feel as if Italy need to transition, and much like Spain, they need to change how they approach it and let these new, younger players come in. But by the same token, I feel like for Italy, it's a lot more urgent. There are less players coming through. Your big players, your Buffon and Pirlo, are the kind, they're I don't want to say they're beyond it, but you compare them to the players that Spain are phasing out of their team. I'd say they're of more significance than those Spanish players, and they're a lot older.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what Italy do. They're another team who, like Spain, will have to just have a changing of the guard, effectively. Yeah. And if they can do it well, then they could be a force again in a couple of years' time. We don't know. They could have a terrific tournament at the Euros. They could bring through players. Like 2 years ago, you wouldn't have thought people like Barkley, Sterling, etc. would be in the England team.
No.
And Koke would not have been near the Spain squad 2 years ago. And so, these things happen. So that's that group done with. We'll move on, shall we? Group E. One of the easiest groups I think we've seen. Not that many surprises.
No, we predicted this right for once.
Yeah, we actually got this one right. We said France and Switzerland would go through, and they did. Ecuador and Honduras, that we didn't know much about because obviously we pre-recorded that show before they played England.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a great understanding of what they'd be like. We were pretty spot on though. We thought Honduras would kick people.
Yeah, that was a good prediction.
So that was a good prediction. They finished on no points. Ecuador finished on 4, and the Swiss finished on 6, with France topping the group. With 2 wins and a draw. The French, we were really positive about. All recording, we've been happy about them. We've thought, look, they could be a team that could really dominate here. And then they slipped up in their final game and looked less than impressive.
Yeah, the 0-0 against Ecuador was a bit of a question mark over their team. We talked a bit, didn't we, about the fact that the teams who really impressed us in the first games, like the Holland, obviously thrashing Spain, Germany playing well in their first game, they really impressed us. And I remember touching upon, as we built up, I think it was to the second Germany game, or it might have been the second France game, I kind of mentioned to you there's still kind of a game left where teams might just underwhelm us. And we kind of saw that with Holland, only scraping a 3-2 win against Australia, Germany drawing with Ghana, France, in the third fixture, drawing with Ecuador. To me, there's not that many teams who have impressed me all the way through. I look at the teams who have won every game. Holland have impressed me, but as we mentioned, they had that underwhelming win. Colombia, yes, they won every game. I kind of feel like they weren't fully tested by a quality opposition. No disrespect to Greece, Ivory Coast, or Japan.
That's fair.
And then in Group F, Argentina, obviously they won every game and got 9 points, but they won every game by 1 goal.
Yeah.
So there's not been one team who's just absolutely romped their group.
Belgium exactly the same,
even Belgium, they've won every game by 1 goal. It's never been comfortable for them.
So despite France not winning all their games and picking up a draw against Ecuador, do you think they're in a better shape than, say, Belgium? We'll compare the two. Because Belgium have kind of been effective without being exciting, whereas France set the World Cup alight on a couple of occasions.
See, I think for France, their players have actually performed throughout kind of their key players, maybe with the exception of the Ecuador game, but in spells they still showed it. Whereas I look at Belgium, and we talked about the kind of the striker issue they've got with Lukaku. His movement's been so poor this World Cup. Playing that lone striker role isn't easy, especially at the age he's at, but he doesn't throw himself into the box. And so as much as Belgium have won it all games, when you're kind of, I want to say the striker that you are relying on to an extent just isn't performing particularly well, that would worry me more than, say, drawing with Ecuador 0-0.
No, I can understand that. And the Swiss as well, they started off the tournament quite well. They started the tournament with a very last-minute goal to see them beat, was it Ecuador in the first game?
That was a great game.
And then they got absolutely smashed by France, but finished that game quite well, and we said that might translate into the next game. And it did. Shaqiri picked up a hat-trick in the final game against Honduras, and they'll go through on 6 points. As you say, we predicted this. This was kind of...
It was an easier group, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, we saw France and Switzerland dominating. Ecuador and Honduras did kind of what we expected. Ecuador are always a better team than Honduras. I always thought, I felt that throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
So the table to me is set out as you'd probably expect, aside from the fact France drew with Ecuador.
Shaqiri really impressed me in this group too. I know he really showed that in the last game, but even before that, I felt like he was an engine for Switzerland going forward. And
their game, we'll come on to Group F, and their game against Argentina, who topped Group F, will be very interesting because Argentina, another team that haven't really been tested in their group, and Swiss are a very good team, whereas as Argentina have proved in this tournament, they're a bit of a one-man team. We spoke about Ecuador. Messi is turning on the show, isn't he?
I mean, I worry for Argentina because, as we mentioned, they've won every game by 1 goal. And you look at Switzerland, and yes, it's Switzerland, but they've scored 7 goals in 3 games. It's they're banging in goals. They're averaging more than 2 goals a game. And that worries me for Argentina, because Argentina, yes, they've played pretty convincingly all in all, but they've got 6 goals in their games, and they conceded a lot of goals against average teams. No disrespect to Nigeria, who also progressed in that group, but you expect Argentina to be slightly more convincing than a 3-2 win against Nigeria.
Yeah, so Group F was Argentina, Bosnia, Nigeria, and Iran. It didn't go as I thought. I think I predicted before the tournament that I thought Bosnia would have a really good tournament.
Bosnia were really disappointing, weren't they?
They're another team like the Ivory Coast, like Italy, that I just thought would be made for this tournament. I just thought it was just like their time to shine. They've got a good crop of players. I just felt like they would do far better, and they've really. I feel let down by nations I've got no affiliation with. But
Talk about with Japan.
Yeah, well, yeah, to be true, Jack, you've shot yourself in the foot there. But Nigeria have done pretty well to get through in this group, because, as we say, we thought Bosnia would be the team. We've just spoke about Argentina. Is Messi doing what you thought? I guess we'll quickly talk about Messi.
Well, he got all 3 man of the matches, and he's 4th top goal scorer in the league. He's doing what I thought in terms of scoring goals. I didn't think that he'd need to score kind of the key goals he has had to score in this tournament. He scored 2 winners in the first 2 games fairly late on in the second half. There's
something quite nice about international competition, that Messi is scoring the really important goals. Like, I don't know what it is, but Argentina look lost until Messi does something.
For me, my big worry if I was an Argentina fan is, what do we do if we come up against a bigger team? They've just not convinced me. You want a team to go out there in the group stage and convince me. And I'll tell you what, Messi as an individual has convinced me. The Argentines on the whole, for me, I could see them losing to Switzerland. And I know that sounds like a crazy, outlandish thing to say, but I just think if Messi can't come up with those big goals, and I know Messi's been in fine form for his country, like his record since in like his last 30 games for kind of Argentina, he's like set up and scored combined more goals than he's actually appeared in games.
Yeah, it's like ever since everyone slagged him off internationally, he's gone, right then, fine. If you don't think I'm very good at it, I'll start being good at it.
I'm almost waiting for him to have a bad game, and my worry is that it'll be the game where Argentina really needs him to turn up.
Yeah, they're not... Okay, I don't want to just have our focus solely on Messi. Di Maria's had a good tournament.
Yeah.
Messi and Di Maria have been like the two. Aguero's not been great. Higuain's not been...
But he's injured now, isn't he, as well?
Aguero is out of the tournament, so there's
so Higuain's going to have to come in. I know he played the last game, but there's going to be a little bit of emphasis on him. And if he was to get injured, you are really relying on Messi then to grab your goals alongside Di Maria.
Yeah, Argentina are going to go from a team that looked very wealthy in that area to suddenly looking a little bit bare, which you wouldn't have thought about before the tournament. What about Iran then? They did better than I thought.
They got a point, didn't they, against Nigeria, who advanced in this group? So
they weren't bad either. They didn't play horrifically. We mentioned they pushed Argentina pretty close.
I feel like they should feel really hard done by to have 1 point, because they drew with Nigeria, who lost 3-2 to Argentina, and they themselves only lost 1-0 to Argentina.
Yeah.
Like, for me, Iran really impressed me, and I talked about it earlier with Joel Campbell, but I felt like there were one prominent kind of maybe speedy striker who could actually finish away from maybe advancing in this group.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, France will play Nigeria in the next round, and Argentina will face the Swiss. We shall move on to Group G, which was one of the most entertaining groups, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
In this tournament, it was Germany, USA, Portugal, and Ghana. Germany finished top with 7 points. We were very impressed in the first game against Portugal. We were very impressed. Then we were a little bit underwhelmed against Ghana, which finished 2-2, and then they scraped a 1-0 against the Americans. So how do you think Germany will do? Similar to France, really.
Yeah.
In the way we thought about them before and after their underwhelming performances.
I don't want to reveal my predictions for the final, but I'm fairly confident on my... If you don't know, guys, I don't think we've actually mentioned this in the podcast, but right at the start of the World Cup, me and Ben basically, we made our predictions for the World Cup from some criteria, sealed the envelope and handed them to a third-party official who will be revealing them on the last show to see kind of what our predictions were. After this group stage, most of my predictions are pretty on point. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but for me, Germany doing as well as are doing is a really, really good sign for me personally. But I think for Germany as a whole, there was maybe a few question marks over this group because I don't want to say it was the group of death, because for me, I know this group's been the one tagged with group of death, but for me, Group C was a tighter group in terms of the quality of teams, whereas this team was more likely to see a big team kind of go out.
Well, I think people are quite surprised to see Portugal go out.
I'm surprised to see the USA advance, but fair play to them, because they've played really well. I know that 1-0 Germany defeat in the game yesterday, which obviously we're not covering because we're doing this, I think they were always going to be outclassed by Germany, but they were resilient, and to only concede one, and to be fair, it was a fantastic finish by Muller, kind of from a half-cleared set piece. Like, the USA can definitely take something forward, and they're going to be taking on a Belgian team in the next round who, yes, they won every game, but they weren't very convincing.
Yeah, I've been really impressed by Jermaine Jones.
In the centre.
He looks really solid. I think is he like 31? I want to say he's 31.
Yeah.
That's for Schalke. It surprises me he's not, because he's a bit of an American Tom Huddleston, if you know what I mean. He's got a similar hair until Huddy got his hair cut. But they're quite similar players. That sort of demonstrative midfield figure.
Yeah.
So how disappointed are you by Ronaldo's boys? Portugal have come third in the group. Shocked or just kind of...
I think after the first game that they lost, I wasn't surprised, of with where they've now finished. But if you told me going into that first game that they were going to lose 4-0 to Portugal, 4-0 to Germany, I probably would have laughed at you.
Oh.
I've got to be honest, if you told me 4-0, I probably would have laughed. For me, very disappointing, but then you look at their performances, it was disappointing going into the tournament, but given how they've actually played, they don't deserve to be through. I was more surprised by how poor their performances were than their overall standing. Yeah.
So we'll move on to the final team in the group, Ghana. I think a lot of people tipped Ghana to be one of the more exciting African teams, and arguably they were. They just didn't win a game.
Well, they scored in every game, didn't they? And they still go out. It's not fair that they can score 4 goals in 3 games and Greece scored 2.
Yeah, Asamoah Gyan stepped up. The game against Germany was one of my favourite games. The second half especially was the key to that. It was so
exciting. The atmosphere as well in that game was really intense. You don't really expect Germany v Ghana in Brazil to be a game like that, but I think the fans really kind of got into that game because of how exciting it was.
Yeah, that was one of the most exciting games I think we've had the tournament. In fact, after we've done the group, shall we talk about what our favourite games were?
We'll do that, because we'll do that with the Twitter question.
So Germany go through, USA comes second. A bit of a shock. I'm really pleased for America, though. There was a picture, I don't know if it was a legit picture, but I assume it was, of Chicago during the Germany game, and it was...
Yeah.
You couldn't see for people. It was... Oh, I love that. I've said it before, I really want America to become involved in soccer. I cannot do that. I really want them to love it like we love it.
Me.
No, but I don't even want that though.
I think it would be better with that. I think the big kind of thing is, I don't want to say Americans are glory supporters, but it's like when your national team's doing well in any sport, you get behind them. It's like it's like Bradley Wiggins in the cycling. I don't give a damn about cycling, but suddenly when he was doing well in the Tour de France, everyone loves cycling.
I was going to say the Olympics. We don't really give a shit about athletics. Sorry, Mrs. Jack. But as soon as they start doing well and the Olympics is in London, we care so much that we're rooting for every single British person. Yeah. And I think America feel like that with their sports teams. I think a lot of countries probably like that with the Olympics. But America haven't had this affiliation with football before. Now they've got... Well, they have, but not to the extent where you can physically see. They've taken more fans than any other country aside from Brazil. Obviously, that's their home nation, so that's going to happen. I just love their enthusiasm for it.
Well, the other thing is, in America, there's so much competition between sports, and I think the MLS just gets a little bit less kind of coverage. It's not as popular. But when it's something like the World Cup, it has to be covered in more detail. They have to show every game on the various TV networks. It's something that people get invested in. It's like you said with the Olympics. I don't go and watch. It's the what is an
long jump. You're not going to see long jump.
Well, I'm not going to. Oh, look, it's the Manchester Indoor Athletics tournament. I'm going to go watch that on BBC Three. I don't care. But when it's the Olympics, you get behind it.
That, but
you sicken me.
I've ruined your point there.
Get out.
So Germany will face. We'll move on to Group H. Germany will face Algeria, and as you mentioned, the US will take on Belgium, who have won every single game. They've not been emphatic. No. But they have been consistent. Is that above expectation, or is that the expectation they probably thought? I get the feeling Belgium's probably thought they'd get 7 points. They might have thought Russia might have given them a tougher game.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Russia were the disappointment, I think, in this group. I mean, even in this group, you look across the teams who finished third, with the exception of Ecuador, Bosnia, Portugal, Russia. Teams, I know that it might sound like a European bias, but then you look at the fact that Nigeria, the USA, and Algeria finished above them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't expect that. And for me, Algeria did impress me. I feel as if Belgium, as you mentioned, probably went into the tournament. I thought they'd dominate this group, but there's always this kind of doubt in your mind, they're probably going to slip up somewhere. It might be against Russia, who might give them the best kind of fight. Obviously, Russia got 2 draws in their other games, so they just looked a bit uninspiring kind of going forward. I think they drew both games 1-1 and then obviously lost to Belgium. But no, Algeria surprised me in this group. Really did. I was impressed with them, and obviously they're one of 2 African nations with Nigeria going through to the next round.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see. Once again, we mentioned before the World Cup, we wanted to be surprised by teams and players. And Origi for Belgium has been that one. And Algeria, their whole team impressed me. We were worried that Fenguli would be kind of their mainstay, the one that if they were going to have a good tournament, he would have to perform. But it hasn't been just him. Slimani, who I mentioned in the last show we covered Algeria, scored again yesterday.
Yeah.
So and they are really stepping up. They could give Germany a tricky game because they're quite solid and they're quite explosive. I just worry that if they go behind in games that they're going to start getting a little bit angry. Obviously, they didn't do that against Korea. They took an early 3-0 lead, and that would let them manage the game. And I feel like if they play against a Brazilian Germany team, then that could become kick central, is what I'm saying, because they're known for it.
Yeah.
And Korea not had the best tournament. I don't think anyone expected them to.
No. I was going to say it was much like Iran, maybe, and in kind of the sense of you don't really expect them to do well, and they didn't do well, did they? They got 1 draw and lost their other games.
Indeed. So that covers the groups, Jack.
We've done it.
We're sort of the halfway stage now.
Is this actually the halfway through in terms of days of the World Cup?
I don't think it is. I think we're a few days. I think we're a couple of days off, but it certainly feels that way.
It's been intense, hasn't it? I'm looking forward in an odd way to not having to watch kind of 3 or 4 matches a day. As much as I love it, we've obviously made a thing of watching every game, but now I don't have to plan my life around 4.5 hours of football every day. So
obviously we haven't got a competition. Well, we have got a competition today if you want, but we haven't really got one. No, we haven't got one.
We haven't got one. There's no games today.
So what we'll do instead is, because we'll read some of the best ones out tomorrow, but maybe because it's only us 2 tomorrow, so we can read some of these out. What was your favourite game from the group stage? Your most impressive player and your biggest letdown, whether that be a player or a team. So I want the best game you watched, the best player of the tournament, and the biggest letdown, whether that be player or team.
Can't be England. Can't be England.
It can be England. We'll start with you, Jack. What was your favourite game of the tournament? I've got a couple, so we'll start with you.
I'm looking through like a wall of fixtures right now. I'm probably going to have to go with the Netherlands-Spain game. I mean, what a way to kick off the second day of the World Cup.
That was one of mine.
So yeah, I know that's the obvious candidate because it was Spain getting thrashed, but I was like a giddy little girl watching the ball fly in the back of the net.
It was enthralling, wasn't it? It was like seeing someone be tortured, but you couldn't not watch.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, this is so... I quite like Spain.
It was like someone being tortured with tickles.
Yeah, it was.
Like, you want to watch and you find... It's pleasant to watch. It's not like a regular torture.
Yeah.
This has got very dark, hasn't it? Let's move on.
Another of my favourite games was the first game of the tournament, and it tends to be that way with a lot of tournaments, I think. But Brazil 3, Croatia 1. To watch that stadium go 1-0 down, because it wasn't just the team, the stadium and the country went 1-0 down. You just saw the faces and they were a bit like, oh no. this is not happening in our backyard. This is not happening. And to see Brazil climb back and crawl their way through to a victory was quite, like, I don't know, it was a nice way to start the World Cup because you had both emotions. You had Brazil really suffering and then coming to the top of the cake. That's not a phrase. It's not a phrase.
Coming to the top of the cake. Like, make it happen. Start using it.
It's not a phrase. Coming to the top of the cake. And I also enjoyed USA Portugal.
Yeah.
That was another game which I really liked.
That's a good, exciting game.
That's probably the 3 games. Have you got another game, or did you quite like watching France demolish Switzerland?
That was a good one. That was an entertaining one. I'd actually probably go with Switzerland v Ecuador with the last-minute winner, where it wasn't particularly the most memorable game up until that point, but to watch Ecuador in the 93rd minute have a really good chance, I think it was a Swiss player, just throws himself in front of the ball. It ricochets off him, pings up. Switzerland hit them on the break, score with a last-minute goal. And then to see, we have a Skype group chat, but one of the guys had a bet on Switzerland to win, and he turned it off and gone, they're crap. He was cursing them out, and I'm like, by the way, it's 2-1. Just to see his reaction as much as anything. I mean, I could say my favourite game was the 2-2 USA v Portugal, but that'd be a complete lie because I missed the last goal.
Did you really? The final goal?
We've already discussed this, haven't we? I turned off my TV. Someone compared it in the chat of the video that I mentioned it on to leaving a stadium early. Slightly different turning off the the USA v Portugal game to leaving the stadium, but I get the sentiment and I regret it.
Do you know what's annoying? I only saw 1-0 in the whole tournament, and it was England-Costa Rica.
You poor soul. What about France?
I was watching both. So I guess I kind of saw it, but I was watching the Swiss game at the same time.
That old excuse.
Yeah. Another one of my favourite... I've got one more game which I really liked, which was Argentina 1, Iran 0. Because for a long time you thought Iran were going to get something.
Oh, I didn't. That was a really fun one to watch. Every time Iran went forward, you could hear everyone in the stadium. Every Brazilian was there going, go on, Iran.
Everyone on Twitter was loving it as well.
They should have had a penalty in that game.
Oh, don't go back to this.
I'm bitter.
We've covered it. I know you are. Who's been your favourite player of the tournament so far, Jack? Who's really impressed you?
Who's really impressed me?
Do you want me to go first?
Let me think.
I'll go with Jimmy Rod. Jimmy Rod or RG Rob, which is what Spencer came up with, I think. Both of them. I've liked them both. Both scored 3 goals. Both kind of not carrying their nation, but both putting in a severe contribution. Severe. Yeah. Weird. I'm also quite enjoying Neymar and Messi being the pin-ups, and then they're just continuing to do that. I quite like that. But yeah, I'll go Jimmy Rod. I've really liked him, and Robin comes a close second.
You've said all the obvious ones now, so I feel like I need to throw in some curveballs. So
throw in a curveball.
I'm going to go with Clint Dempsey.
All right.
Enjoyed watching his nose get broken. Asamoah Gyan, because of course he took the record for most goals scored by an African at World Cup finals.
Yeah,
with 6. And I could go with Tim Cahill just for the goal against Holland.
Should we give 2 keepers a mention as well, Achua and Howard?
I was going to give Akin Feev one. Akin
he provided some glorious moments.
He did. Especially the laser pen in the eye yesterday.
Indeed. So shall we... do you know what? We won't talk about our most negative, but we'll leave that to Twitter and YouTube to decide.
Yeah, let us know.
Shall we go to the Twitter question?
Let's go to the Twitter question of the day. Drum roll, please.
It all links in, so it's fine. The Twitter question of the day was, what's your favourite moment of the World Cup so far? Do you have the answers ready, Jack?
Yeah, I do. Do you want me to...
Good.
Hit you with some.
Hit me with some.
So Gruff Gangster and Bradley McWilliam both said Tim Cahill's goal.
It was a good goal.
They loved it. They loved it. One of them is Australian, so he's probably completely biased, but he was loving that.
Good day, mate.
Finley Morris said Jimmy Rod's goal against Japan. If you don't know, Jimmy Rod is James Rodriguez's...
No, James Rodriguez, Jimmy Rod.
James Rodriguez is kind of... We want to say westernised name. Don't call him James. Call him Jimmy Rod.
Jimmy Rod. Jimmy Rod likes surfing, Jack.
There's a lot of people saying Cahill.
Yeah,
Joe Island said Cahill and watching Costa Rica beat Uruguay 3-1. That was a good game to watch as well, wasn't it?
It was a good game.
So someone said...
Now, so
have you got them up now? Excellent. I'll let you take the reins.
All right. Joe Hart asking for the ball versus Italy. If you've not seen it, he gets very angry.
He does.
He does Rob Green on Dr. Benji.
I thought it would have been great advertising if instead of throwing the ball back, the ball boy just pulls out a Snickers and lobs it at him like you turn into a diva when you're hungry.
Yeah, J_MUFC said, got to be the dancing. Which team did some really good dancing?
Was it Ghana who took a 2-1 lead against Germany and then started dancing? It's like, yes, there's still a match going on, and then they conceded.
Yeah, but it was great dancing. Mr. Kingy said all the underdogs were proving they're no pushovers. I've enjoyed that aspect of the tournament.
Especially Japan.
Especially Japan. Bless you. So Liam Gadd just said the final whistle of Costa Rica, England.
Don't blame you.
And that was pretty much it. There were a few more there, but we'll leave it there. We can't read them all out because where's the justice?
Where's the justice?
There's no quiz.
There's no quiz.
There is social media.
There is. www.forthefanshow.com. Check us out on iTunes and YouTube, but we're on Twitter at ForTheFanshow there.
Yeah, if you are still listening to the very end of this podcast, if you're on YouTube and you've not liked the show, it's gone by, like this one, because this is a review of everything. And if you don't already follow us on Twitter, but you're listening on iTunes or YouTube, come over at ForTheFanshow. on Twitter.
One more thing. If you are watching on iTunes or indeed on YouTube, there's a link, obviously, to the iTunes page in the YouTube description. Please go on iTunes. Please go to the rate and review tab of the podcast. Rate it 5 stars if you've been enjoying it. It's greatly appreciated. We're currently at 81 ratings.
And if you've not enjoyed it, just listen again and see if you like it.
Don't rate it badly then.
Yeah, just have another go.
But no, it's greatly appreciated. It also helps us appear higher up on iTunes. So if you have been enjoying it, it takes literally 2 minutes to open up the podcast in iTunes, and it is hugely appreciated, guys.
It is. So thank you to all those that have listened so far. From me, Ben, and my co-host Jack.
I'm here.
We'll say goodbye. Bye, everyone.
Bacon.
We'll see you tomorrow. I'm surprised you've not said anything more controversial.